Hello and welcome back to Garen River vs. Cultist Simulator. I know I said I was going to leave it a couple of weeks, but someone recommended I sort of play a game away from the series just to sort of get my head through some stuff. And I completed a run as the Enlightenment Victory, and I just want to talk about it a little. So first of all, I tried some mods. I've got the Fast Reader mod. That made it so much less grindy for doing the books. I tried the faster mod, but it turned out to be incredibly broken. Not game-breaking like that one, but broken as in it made things both too easy and too hard at the same time. And colour fix, that's just, it's just aesthetic. So, I've unlocked the Apostle Entheat, which is presumably the follow-on from the Enlightenment. Yeah, always available after the Incursus, which is the standard Enlightenment victory. I did not have a good time. What I will do is I'll get started. I will try not to be too harsh. I'll try to be quite balanced, but this is going to be a bit of a complainy video, so apologies if that's not something you want to hear. You might want to skip this episode. Anyway, the Illuminated One waits in the House of the Sun, waits to rise higher. I am their hand. The first dream. The dreams have hollowed me out like a withered oak, and now I am almost ready. I am the Revelant. So, first of all, I will get this started. What I must do, I return to myself with a start. Was I daydreaming? Here is a package with funds. Here are my instructions in a slender envelope of skymost blue. It's enough. My other memories are not relevant right now. They're relevant. What? The third mode. Also, a nice little trick I've learned is I was always like putting that stuff in there and it would always crowd it, because that's where it puts new cards. In my last one, I sort of put that above where I was keeping all my stuff and it just made it a lot neater. We shall navigate, we shall illuminate, we shall not be compassionate. Seek the crossroads behind the door of eyes. Raise there the allure. Send the shivered dead to bring the sleeping souls of mortals. When there are sufficient witnesses, send for the key of days to open the three-lobed gate of outwards in its third mode. Right there, that is one of my problems with this game. I love the Cthulhu mythos. I love the whole themes of eldritch horror. It fascinates me no end. This game has too much bullshit writing in it. And I noticed it when I was... Because at the end of the thing, I had, like, all of the lore. Because I spent, like, 5 hours playing this. Arcors, I remember these names, though I've never heard them spoken. I played, like, 5 hours. So by the end, I had everything. Arcors, my allies, my Illuminated One. I don't know why Rose, but okay. John Anderson. Yes, he was John Anderson. Our Illuminated One, our source, our inspiration, now dwells in the Mansus. And I did a moth. A moth club. Moth cult. That's the word, Garen. It's Cultist Simulator. I don't know how I'm supposed to mentor our secret ruler. But when I had all of the different lore, and I began reading some of it, there is just so much writing in this. And it's even if it's all like cryptic hints towards other stuff, there is too much in this. What do I recall? Oh, the wood. Okay, well it gave me a lot of stuff. Like, the ascent of knives is the bloodiest of the watchman tests. Those who pass it and are dead enter the service of the sun in rags. Those living who pass it are a little closer to the glory. What does that mean? I also tried messing around with rites. I summoned something. Didn't know what the hell I was doing. A place to begin. Ah, the temporary headquarters. Okay. I guess we got kicked out of the bookshop where I had my old headquarters. A big problem is, previously on this series I did the Sensation Victory. And then, literally earlier today is when I recorded it. Not today when the video goes out, today when I'm recording this. I did the Enlightenment Victory. They are identical. That was shockingly disappointing to discover. That they are literally identical. The only difference is Sensation uses Grail, whereas Enlightenment uses Lantern. Someone has arrived. We are warned by the colours in the sun, by the occlusion of the moon, by the fracture of the lens. A great enemy of our Illuminated One has come to the city. Oh, it's the rival, of course. Oh, passion. Good. Which means I can immediately start going into the wood. Because I discovered the trick to like farming lore is you just repeat these constantly. You use passion to go into the wood. You use health to go into the white door, and you use reason to go into the stag door. And then for the higher ones, you need particular special stuff. I managed to go through the spider door and the peacock door as well. So I learned a lot in that. Through experimentation, through sort of not needing to talk and be entertaining, to just essentially free time to just faff about without oversight. And that was quite helpful. Like having that up there rather than down here means that any sort of temporary stuff will just clog up here and then just vanish on its own rather than cluttering up my workspace, as it were. Exotic cravings. Oh, what does John Anderson want now? Oh, a dream of a key. The dream, again, instructions for me and for someone else if I can find them. It will guide me into the mansus. It will show me what I need to do. It is a presentiment of the true key for those who know something of the glory. I don't know what that means. It's a tool, so I can't really use it for anything. Similar to how that's a tool. I think this is probably like the blood I got last time, where I can use it to solve a particular problem. So after discovering the two endings are essentially the same, because what I mean is that and this is sort of spoilers for the Enlightenment victory, which I haven't done on the channel. When you get to the 3 marks, you then have to sacrifice people to get your additional marks. And you had to do that for sensation, because the idea was you were eating them, or in some way using their flesh. But for the sensation, for the enlightenment, you're talking to them in a room, and apparently they die from that. It's not explained, but it's like, what is the point of having these 3 different victories if they are functionally identical, you know? I don't know about the third one, I haven't tried the third one, so maybe that's different, but I'd be surprised if it was, if the other 2 aren't. By the end of the run earlier, I sort of discovered the best way to deal with dread and fascination, that sort of thing. That's not a problem. Turns out using the funds to sleep is such a good way of doing it. It completely... I'm out of money! Shit! I've not been earning any money. I kept expecting it to give me a job and it didn't. So now I'm in trouble. I can sort of deal with dread and fascination and even notoriety just playing without sort of needing to be entertaining at the same time. It allowed me to puzzle through a lot of this game with the little hints I've got, like use funds to get contentment and that sort of thing. That was very helpful. So now I feel I'm in a much better position to play the game well, but at the same time, the more I've understood about this game, the less I like it. That sounds really harsh and sounds like quite a sort of out-of-nowhere statement, but basically the game has disappointed me. And I may have mentioned this before, I don't really recall. Essentially, the game implies there are all these different options, and there just aren't. Like with the different victories, like, oh, you can do sensation, which is all about the flesh, or you can do enlightenment, which is all about the mind. Functionally identical. The only difference is the lore you use. And on that note, the thing it tells me is that there are good and bad ways to play this game. As in, certain choices you can make just make your playthrough objectively harder. I'm still not earning money. Sorry, I'm so out of practice. Because I just had so much money on the other one. Oh god, I'm gonna get more. Oh no, this is bad. This is really bad. I may have lost. Oh no, I've got vitality. Yeah, I may have lost just because I wasn't paying attention to my money. And I'll be really annoyed if that's the case, but no, I'm gonna survive. Good. Ooh, close though. So take the fatigued health, maybe? No? Yes? Take the... Does it not work with fatigued? Have I lost because of... Fuck me! Alright, there is a restart, so I'm going to use that. And I'm hoping it just restarts. Okay, good. That is something that I wasn't aware of until the commenter told me there was a restart. Anyway, let's try that again. Yes, there are objectively sort of right and wrong ways to play this, as in ways that make it just objectively easier or harder. For example, I did the Enlightenment victory, I created a Moth cult. The Enlightenment uses Lantern lore, Moth cult uses Moth lore. which meant I had to create a high-level version of 2 different laws in order to achieve the same thing as if I had just gone for Lantern Cult. And that's sort of the problem. Like, functionally, there is no freaking difference between the different cults you choose. The only thing it affects is the different particular aspect that you can get to an exalted level. Because I even managed to get a Lantern sort of follower to exalted, and I didn't read what it said, but the point was it didn't work. So you can't, like, game it. Like, I managed to get, I think it's 21 you need to exalt. I managed to get the 21 I needed. I used an instrument and so on and high-level lore, so I didn't need the follower to fit it in order to level him up. But it wouldn't let it level up, so all the cult does is dictate which one aspect you can get to exalted level. And because of that, it makes the game just flat out easier if you choose the one that matches the victory you're going for. So, for example, because I didn't choose Lantern Cult, it was straight up harder for me to do a Lantern victory, because you can't get the Lantern guys up to Exalted, which means they, essentially your followers, which are in most rights needed to get the victory, they're just 5 less in the required stat. Oh, Poppy. Okay, hello. Do you see what I mean? Does that make sense? I hope that makes sense. So that's the sort of thing, there is a straight up better way of doing it, and I hate that. I hate that it presents it as this, oh, you could do this or this or this or this, but the result is that if you choose anything but the few particular things it suggests or leans towards, you are just empirically going to do worse at the game. And I guess there's like challenge modes, like, oh crap, I didn't pause in time. Challenge modes are fine and everything, but when a game implies, or perhaps you could even argue sells itself on the concept of multiple choices, like you could do this in any of these different ways, but in reality it is incredibly limited. I hate that, I really do. So maybe that's just my personal preference on it. I did say this was going to be a rather sort of my opinion driven thing regarding where I feel this game messes up. But yeah, so there's the fact that you can essentially hobble yourself by choosing the wrong lore for your cult. There's the fact that at least two of the victories are identical mechanically, and I think it is different for the DLC ones. Oh goody, hello. Because with those, like, you've got different things entirely, like there was the priest, it turns out I missed his unique one, and the dancer has the sort of the change victory, I think it's called, that kind of thing. From that perspective, they do improve it, but for the base game to just have this, essentially this one way of doing it, is disappointing to me. And even if you could argue that, like, oh, that's because you're supposed to get through that quickly so you can get to the interesting ones like this, because this is like the advanced victory, and maybe this is where it separates. It's a very difficult roguelike game that takes hours and hours to play a single victory. So you can't just say, oh, if you want to get to the really interesting stuff, you just have to get through like 5 hours of incredibly boring, repetitive stuff first every time. That's just not okay. And it is incredibly repetitive. Every single run, even like the DLC ones, all seem to work on the same basis of you get books, to get lore, to get followers, to get better lore, to do expeditions, to get better lore, to complete stuff. That's all the game is. And I know that sounds like, oh, you could say that about any game. Other games can do more with the same stuff, if that makes sense. And this one, it doesn't feel like it's doing much with it. It seems to lean very, very heavily on the writing, which on a surface level seems really good, but underneath it, it is overly flowery, I guess is the way to put it. Because I really like H.P. Lovecraft's writing. I've got the full works of H.P. Lovecraft, which is all of the Cthulhu mythos and related works. I've been reading through them, and essentially his stories fall into 3 categories, or 2.5 categories. There is the category of, this is a really gripping story with fascinating lore told well. This is overly flowery writing, overly descriptive, doesn't have much story to it. And then you get just like the minor category, which is this was written as a commission for a magazine or something, and they're just notably worse generally. I'm quite fond of it. There's Herbert West, Reanimator. It's not a very good story. I remember it very fondly, and it's one of the ones I've read the most, but it is itself not a very good story. And the way some of the higher end laws are written, the story of a city without a gate, of a queen who was not born, of a war that was not fought, it is not written because it means anything. It's written because it distinctly does not mean something, or it means the opposite of what it seems like it should mean. That's what I classify as some of Lovecraft's bad writing. His good writing is when even the nonsensical stuff can conjure an image. But like referring to something exclusively as like, oh, this is a door that has no physical form and it's solely portrayed through the inner mind's eye's soul. It doesn't mean shit. It doesn't explain anything. Doesn't give you anything to hinge on, anything to see. And that's my problem, that a lot of the writing in this is that kind of bad. I may be just going on about it now, but that's just my personal way of seeing it. This is all completely my perspective. If you enjoy this game and you enjoy the flowery writing and you enjoy the repetitive, dull gameplay, that's great, and I'm glad somebody does. But it gets on my nerves, all of these things. I think there is too much of a gulf in this game. So like here, it's, they're preparing an action, you could do this or this or this or this. And actually, I have learnt stuff like the expeditions. I always thought they were just completely bloody random what it would ask for, but it turns out it does say in the little aspects when they're going on. Like this, the aspects here would say what stuff is, so you can see the aspects of something that's happening and get a hint about what you might need to do. And those tell you the aspects of the followers you should put in. And when I discovered that, I was completing all of the expeditions without any problems at all, which is part of how I managed to get so much lore. And these are always the same. That's another thing I've noticed. The thing it shows always has the exact same two other options, and they are always the same thing. So when it shows the forge, I think it is on the left, it's always going to be the chilling atmosphere on the top and the lesson learned erudition on the bottom, which means you can just avoid essentially a source of dread. I think I'm going to leave it there because I've been talking a lot in this, and I want this all to be in one video. So let me know your thoughts on any of the stuff I've rambled about. Apologies if I rambled too much. Again, these are my personal opinions, so please don't tell me I'm wrong, but by all means offer a counter-opinion. I'm very interested to know how you feel about these things. I am willing to play more of this. I feel some things have clicked. I feel I sort of accepted other things, and I feel I can play this much better now than in the previous video I did. So I am happy to try and give this a proper go. Thank you very much for watching, and let me know what you think. I will catch you later.